Hey, thanks for clicking on the show. Welcome to the Cannabis Man podcast if it's your first time, or welcome back if you've been here before. I'm your host, Don Kleppen, and this week I have a great guest interview for you, very informative about an educational program, some certificates being offered by an Illinois university, and some of the cool opportunities afforded by their very special and unique Cannabis Science Center. Also, a bit of a unique twist on the Illinois News Joint wrap this week. I'm also going to tell you about my strain of the week and talk to you about a fascinating development that I'm excited about, a national council looking at craft cannabis growers and what that might mean for different state markets. All of that coming up. Before we get to that, though, if you haven't already, please leave a rating or review, subscribe, or like the show. However you are listening to this, or if you're watching it on YouTube, any activity like that definitely shows that people are listening, and that helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get into this 23rd episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Stuff, listener. I hope whatever you're doing, whatever your day's got in store for you, or whatever kind of day you've had, just put it aside for the moment. Let's just take a deep breath and chill and talk about what's going on in the world of cannabis. And with that, I'd like to share with you my strain of the week. This is the strain of cannabis that has been fueling my days. Lately, the last few days or so, I have been smoking on White Wedding. This is a hybrid strain. It's made from crossing wedding cake and GSC. I bought this at the Wrigleyville location of Sunnyside. That dispensary qualifies this as a more indica-leaning hybrid. The dominant terpene in the strain is pinene, and typical reviewers say it makes them feel happy, euphoric, talkative as well. The flavor and aroma listed on leafly.com is ammonia. I personally don't really get that. I do get a little bit of kind of a tree or a leaf sort of aroma, earthy a little bit. It's a little more calming. I'd say this leans more toward the indica end of the spectrum for hybrids, but it is very enjoyable for me. It's definitely a nice mellow kind of high, and White Wedding. I picked up this strain of White Wedding because some friends of mine got married over the weekend. Congratulations again to Bose and Christine. Guys had a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, and many happy memories were made this weekend. Yes. Now it is time for the News Joint wrap. It is brought to you by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. That's right, think of it as the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. And this week for the News Joint wrap, I wanted to focus on one story in particular. Normally I like to go through a few of them, but this one I figured was worth some attention. High Times announced the 2022 Cannabis Cup winners, and IllinoisNewsJoint.com did an expose showcasing all of the winners, and I thought it was worth going through the list and just sharing with you which winners in various categories deserve your attention and that High Times says are the best around. High Times announced these winners on September 18th, the Sunday, and Jason Brown at IllinoisNewsJoint.com put out the article that same day. The recreational category Indica Flower winners, will start there. Brownie Scout by Rhythm, I-95 Bedford Grow, that is a excellent choice. That's the only one on the list that I have tried. And Crescendo by Revolution. Those are the top three that High Times listed as Indica Flower winners in the rec category. Sativa rec winners were Figment by Fig Farms, Durban Poison by Up North, and Miami Punch Revolution coming in on the sativa flower side of those rec winners as well. Hybrid winners are Gorilla'd Cheese by Revolution, number 1. So Revolution cleaning up in the High Times winners here this year. Jenny Kush by Arise was number 2 for the hybrids, and Vanilla Cake by FloraCal Farms makes that the top 3. For pre-roll winners, Honey Bun Solventless Live Rosin Moonwalker by Nature's Grace and Wellness was number 1 for pre-rolls. Blueberry Infused Pre-Roll by Terp Sticks, and Tropical Runts by 777. Those were the winners for pre-rolls. Concentrates were Gorilla'd Cheese Rosin by Revolution, Grapefruit Sour Diesel by Rhythm, and Banana Runts Live Batter by FloraCal. Vape pens and cartridges, Margalope Live Resin Cartridge by Superflux, Candy Rain, that's FloraCal, and Peach Lemonade Terp Tank. Revolution was the creator of that as well. Edible gummies, Freshly Picked Berries Gummies by Mindy's. That's the number 1. And let me say, we always have Mindy's in our fridge. Me and my fiance both love Mindy's gummies. This is an unsponsored plug, but they're just always in our fridge. They're delicious, and they have some excellent and varied low-dose options, and everything they have flavor-wise is just excellent. So do look out for Mindy's next time you're at the dispensary. Cherry Cola Gummy Bites by Matter and Bedford Grow Citrus Twist Gems. Bedford Grow also, gotta say, everything I've tried by them is top-notch. Non-gummy edible winners, Windy City Bites by Incredibles, Mint Cookie Crunch Chocolate Bar by Nature's Grace and Wellness, and Citrus Blue Caramel by Sweet Life by Hannah. In the medical category, some different winners here. Flower winners were Guru 10 by Verano, Buttermilk Biscuits by Revolution, and Orange Harawana by Rhythm. Winners in the vape pens category, Inspired Vape Pen by Bebe, or Bebo, I'm not sure, Beboe, that's number 1. Juice Skywalker Disposable Vape Pen by Nature's Grace and Wellness. I have tried those Juice Skywalker pens from Nature's Grace. Those are excellent as well. There's something about those pens, they're kind of heavy. I believe you can recharge the battery. You can plug in one of the micro USB things on the other end. Those, I really enjoy those. And Sunshine OG Reserve Live by Verano. That's the number 3. And the edibles, Strawberry Lemonade Gems by Bedford Grow, Birthday Cake Pretzel Balls by Nature's Grace and Wellness. Those are quite tasty. And Pineapple Raspberry Gummies by Encore. Those are the High Times Cannabis Cup winners in various categories, recreational and medical, for 2022. And remember, you can always check out IllinoisNewsJoint.com for any more information about these winners of the High Times Cannabis Cup, or any cannabis-related news or events coming up around Illinois that might be worth your attention. All of that always at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Listener, my guest today is a professor at Illinois University, and he is a big part of a very exciting department that they have there. It is the Southern Illinois University Cannabis Laboratory, and my guest today is a doctor and professor who is playing a big role in the education and learning that's being done there all the time. He is part of the Cannabis Biology and Cultivations Systems Laboratory, and he is freshly back from Brazil, back right onto American soil in Illinois. Listener, please welcome Dr. Jose Leme. Welcome, doctor.
Yes, my pleasure. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be back, and I'm excited with the podcast. It's actually the second podcast in 2 weeks. I'm feeling like a celebrity.
Right on. Well, hey, that's awesome, and thank you so much for jumping on. We're very happy to have you on the show here. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening at Southern Illinois University. This laboratory and all the cannabis research that's going on there is very, very exciting. How did you, let's say, how long have you been working at SIU, and how long have you been involved with the cannabis lab there?
Oh, well, so SIU is actually a great place to be if you want to be working with cannabis in general. So in 2018, they start organizing this Cannabis Science Center, which is like a multifaceted organization, like a center.
Sure.
And with a very diverse expertise. So this center is involved with the medical school, the law school, engineering, architecture, like chemistry. So there are like many faculty members working in this Cannabis Science Center, like with their own expertise.
Right.
And I was the first faculty, like professor, to be hired to be working specifically with cannabis.
Wow, and that is really exciting. It's cool to know. So there's this lab, you're saying it brings together experts from a lot of different disciplines, like those studying law, those studying engineering, and the medical side of things, and you're saying they all kind of come together in this lab, which sounds like it really is a great benefit for students.
Yes, it's actually a center, and it got the title of like high education center.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a certified center, and I guess as you know, I mean, there were many professors here at SIU that were interested to work with cannabis, and then after 2018 with the Farm Bill, that made it I would say easier to conduct research on it.
Yep.
They start creating these like side projects addressing cannabis, and then they kind of got together in a center to collaborate and work in collaboration.
So what was it? I would say, it sounds like SIU, as you mentioned, has been cultivating this interest in cannabis for a while. What was it that made you interested in wanting to become part of the education nature of cannabis? Why did you feel like that's a good field to be kind of teaching people in?
Okay, well, just to talk a little bit about myself, I'm originally from Brazil, and I grew up in southern Brazil in a small town, very attached to agriculture. So agriculture, like growing plants, was pretty much in my blood since I'm born. And so my bachelor degree was in agronomy. So, and then my master degree in precision my master degree at Auburn University, I study precision agriculture.
Okay.
And during my PhD at Virginia Tech, it was the first time I was exposed to cannabis. And I guess since I started work with cannabis, because I think that answering your question more specifically, in the scientific standpoint, cannabis is a great plant to conduct research, because we have this lack of 80 years since when this plant was illegal.
Right.
We don't really have any research addressing this plant. So in the scientific standpoint, cannabis is a great plant to work with. So we have a lot to learn. And since I started working with cannabis during my PhD, I just fell in love with this plant, and I said, well, I guess that's what I want to do for the rest of my career. So during my PhD, I was testing plant biostimulants on cannabis, which was a great alternative for producers to increase productivity. As cannabis, as a new plant, very few products were allowed to be applied on cannabis, because we don't really have like studies to validate the effects of these commercial products on cannabis. So these biostimulants, or as organic compounds, they were allowed to apply on cannabis. And then I started testing this plant biostimulants on cannabis, and from them, I finished my PhD, and I started applying for positions in academia and cannabis. And was during the pandemic, was hard to find a job in general. And to find a job specifically in academia and cannabis was almost impossible. So like I'm so happy that I got this position here at SIU, and we are growing this Cannabis Science Center and the cannabis program in general, and it's awesome to be here.
That is awesome, and I can totally understand, just based on your story there, about kind of the huge gap in our knowledge, like you said, of cannabis, because there hasn't been any sanctioned research. There hasn't been research that was allowed the same way that we researched things like tobacco, alcohol, example, other drugs that maybe we were prescribing people that the government allowed research for, we have a large log of research going back to, the 1920s and 30s and before, ever since they were introduced. Whereas cannabis, ever since it was made illegal, prohibited in 1937, there hasn't been any kind of any ability of anybody to conduct legitimate academic research on it, aside from, a handful of programs and stuff. And I can see why then you were so interested in delving into the mystery of this plant that is so widely used and such. What is something that about cannabis, that when you were falling in love with it, what is something about it that, really compelled you to want to learn more, some aspect of the plant?
Oh, there are many aspects that I can talk about.
Yeah.
First thing is like all these myths that you see, these YouTubers, these basement growers talking about, some, snake oils that can increase productivity or can,
Sure.
So there, I value what they're doing, and I think we cannot disregard what the information they're providing. In fact, it's empirical, but we don't have any, scientific studies. There are as you said, very, very few. So
there's not like a large body of legitimate research to weigh their claims against, right?
Exactly. And based on science or to perform some statistical analysis to make sure that it's it's statistically significant. So because sometimes there empirical evaluations can seems like it's a increase, it seems like that it's showing effects,
right?
But it's actually not. So that's one thing for sure that it's, as a scientist, it's awesome to be part of. Cannabis, especially when you're growing cannabis for cannabinoids production, THC, CBD, whatever cannabinoids you're trying to extract from the plant, the relationship of the cannabis plant with the environment or with the management that you're applying on that plant, it can tweak the cannabinoids production. So it's also very important, and we don't really have studies to I would say guide the producers throughout this management.
Right.
And also one more aspect is I have been in agriculture for a long time, and for example, corn or soybeans, we do have a fertilization recommendation, especially here in Illinois, for every single county of Illinois, or even in the entire Midwest.
Right.
But for cannabis, what is the fertilization recommendation? So we don't have it.
It's a great point. Yeah, just looking at it from a crop perspective and from farming it, just the sort of guidance in terms of how much food you give it, light, water, soil stuff. I have to imagine, as you're saying, compared with things like corn, soybeans, other things that we grow, there's a well understood method of growing those things and caring for them, farming them. And with cannabis, there's nothing like that.
Exactly. And and being in grad school for a long time, working with row crops, corn, soybeans, and small grains, you kind of have to come up with these crazy protocols to find something new for this crop, to find a groundbreaking research.
Yeah, right.
For cannabis, we just don't have information based on science. It's very scarce. So it's just very exciting to be in this cannabis biology and cultivation program, and even the relationship with the stakeholders. If you're a farmer that you're growing corn in Illinois for the same family for 100 years,
right?
And their family, the same family growing corn in the same area, it's really hard as a scientist to try to convince the farmer that the management that they're doing, it's not the best
Right. Yeah.
But for cannabis, they are hungry for information. The cannabis producers, they really want more information. So it's it's a totally different interaction in of like a scientist with the
Yeah.
stakeholders work with cannabis than other crops,
Yeah, yeah.
other
Well,
plants.
that's a really, really interesting perspective that you put out there just now. I mean, these legacy farmers that you talk about, the people who have been doing it for generations in the same places, it makes sense to me. It's human nature that someone whose family's been doing it forever, they sort of operate like they know everything about it, or at least you would understand how their perspective as a perceived expert, they might not be as open to a scientist coming to them with new information saying, hey, you can actually do this a little bit better. I can understand how a legacy farmer would sort of maybe say, well, thanks, but no thanks. I'm pretty good with what I'm doing, versus these cannabis producers, since no one's been doing it legally with giant operations in a farming capacity, since no one's been doing it for that long, certainly not generations in any kind of legitimate way, I get how there isn't that ego, there isn't that resistance to new suggestions or criticisms,
Yeah, exactly. And especially a scientist from Brazil with a thick accent saying, the farmers would say, oh, he doesn't know anything about this area. My family is growing corn here for 100 years. I know better.
Right. Yeah. But again, I mean, it's just a sort of, it's one of those, I think, biases. It's a gap in sort of our logic as human beings, right? Like the bias that seeps in from different areas. That's just an example right there of I think people who, could benefit greatly from what you're saying. And yet it's like, somebody not taking directions for traffic. You know what I mean? Like from
Right.
a local, it's like, no, I don't really need any help. I don't need a map. I can figure it out on my own. But you're like, okay, well, just keep doing what you're doing then. But so what if people who are listening who want to be involved, whether prerequisites or how can somebody, if they're interested in SIU's Cannabis Center, how can they get involved and benefit from it?
Okay, so I will say for my program, because as I mentioned that the Cannabis Science Center, it's a center with many different expertise.
Right.
But we are connected, and I'm actually very connected because let's say if like a professor from med school needs some plants to like smokable flower to conduct like an experiment or like a test.
Right.
They will ask me for the plants, so I'm a big part of the center because I'm responsible for growing the plants. It's the beginning of everything. So in order to do any type of test, doesn't matter what is your expertise, you need the plants. But for the cannabis biology and cultivation systems, so I'm like my position is divided 51% in horticulture and 49% in plant science, School of Biological Science. So it's School of Agriculture and School of Biological Science. So I need this balance between being very practical, like practical experiments, like growing plants and different managements, but also not forgetting the biochemistry part of the plant, the biology. So there are opportunities for both type of students. Like if they want to be more practical and learn more about new ways to grow cannabis, or more the biochemistry part, the phyto compounds. We are creating the cannabis certificate. The name is not even created yet, but it will be something along the lines like cannabis science, cannabis production and supply chain, or cannabis science certificate, something like that, because we want to be broad.
Sure.
To kind of teach the indoor cultivation, outdoor cultivation, until the supply chain, like extraction methods, until even like some like dispensary management. So we want to be very broad to kind of provide the like a full knowledge in terms of growing cannabis and also the supply chain. So hopefully by next fall, we will have the certificate done. But I'm teaching classes. We do have like a cannabis biology class that I'm not teaching, but we have control environment agriculture classes that I this class I just taught this class 30 minutes ago, and
Nice.
as a control environment agriculture, like a big part of the class I will be and also as a cannabis biologist I will be teaching. I will be using cannabis as the model plant, for control environment agriculture.
That's something significant, I would say. I mean, using cannabis as the model plant for sort of just teaching people basics of agriculture kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, control environment agriculture. So because basically for smokable flower and for high quality, THC or CBD extraction, it's how cannabis being cultivated in America. So and also like I just taught the first class, and I asked them like who in this class is planning to work with cannabis. I'm not kidding. It was like 98% of the class.
I bet
they want to work with cannabis. So
yeah, that's awesome, and it is totally an exciting time, and it's great that someone like you with the enthusiasm for it, and I think the right kind of drive leading the charge at SIU's Cannabis Science Center. I think it's going to benefit a lot of students for many years to come, and then thus society at large, because the more we know about cannabis, the better it's going to be for everybody. Dr. Jose Leme, I want to get. I appreciate you coming on. I just want to end this. I usually do these quick hits questions, just like 5 yes or no things. You don't have to think too deeply about them or anything. But before I end it there, I mentioned at the top that you've just come through a really trying experience trying to get back into the U.S. from Brazil, where you're from. You don't have to say anything that you don't, that makes you uncomfortable about it or anything, but I guess I just want to know kind of what did you go through? Why was it so frustrating? What happened that held you back so long?
So I actually start in this position here at SIU this past fall. So I'm actually completing 1 year, like technically 1 year, but I was stuck in Brazil for 7 months. So, and wow. Yeah, it was actually a very frustrating situation because my work petition was approved. Everything was set. So I planned that trip back to Brazil to get the visa because I had other international conference and I would have to go back and forth. And so it wasn't my fault. And when I got there, my visa was rejected.
Oh,
so
man.
Yeah, it was like a mental torture actually, because I could access my email. I could see like some private companies like emailing me for like financial support or something like that, but I couldn't answer.
Oh,
so
man.
I couldn't be in contact with my grad students.
Oh, that's brutal.
And I had to literally put my program on hold. So
for 7 months.
Yes, for 7 months, and I wasn't getting paid. So I had to survive there for 7 months with no income, and I was paying rent here in America, like rent, car insurance, health insurance, everything. So yes,
that's awful.
Yes, it was terrible, and I'm not gonna lie, I freaked out a few times during this 7 months.
I bet.
But
I would have. Yeah, good. I would have too, and it's totally understandable. And I just wanted to say I'm really glad you made it back as well. Obviously, immigration stuff, and just I think even before COVID, it's not like it was a well-oiled machine or anything. But it seems like I hear horror stories like yours of being kind of, especially over the last few years, just being trapped and unable to get back home, and all of the negatives, as you just mentioned, like the financial drains of all your bills back at home in the U.S. having to be paid still, and you can't even answer emails, from people who are wanting to partner with you in a business sense, and kind of right. You would think like get an infusion of cash in there, but you can't respond and say yes. That sounds like torture.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It was a torture, and again, like for this immigration like staff, I'm just a number to them. They don't really know how bad they can affect my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough times, and then I had to come back, and put my entire life back on track, my academic program, my research program. So yes, wasn't easy, but I guess I'm back, and I'm trying to be positive, and I got to the point that I was in Brazil just complaining about everything, and I realized like, hey, I don't like that. I mean, I don't, that type of person that just complain about life in general all the time.
Sure.
So I realized that it wasn't a good way to take life, but I learned that. I mean, the thing, as I said, it wasn't my fault. So, but was a tough experience, but I learned with that experience though.
Yeah. Like, I think that's a really great perspective to take from it. I mean, as you said, it's not like you could have done anything differently to avoid this, but even just kind of getting to that place of like, you know what, I'm hearing myself complain a lot, and I don't want to be that guy anymore. So I'm gonna just try and focus on the positive. And it seems like you've come through it, and it seems like you are on the other side of that. So good on you. I mean, it's not, I think we all know people like that who do complain all the time, and it can be easy. It's easy to point at things that are going wrong, or that you'd like things to be one way and they're another, and so you just gripe about it. But ultimately, that doesn't really help anything, and it doesn't make anybody want to stick around you for too long after a while.
I agree. But also, it can be like an example for like my grad students when they start complaining about, it's too much, I have too much to do, and then I say, you know what? I know what is hard. It's
right.
To be in Brazil for 7 months with no income, and kind of seeing your like professional career going to the drain.
Right, exactly. You have a really powerful example. When anybody comes to you and says, "Hey, man, I'm having a rough day," you're like, "You don't even know what a rough day is." All right.
Exactly.
Well, listen, Dr. Jose Leme, again of the SIU Cannabis Science Center. Let me just wrap this up with these quick hits questions for you, if you don't mind. First one I start with is morning bird or night owl. Which are you?
Oh, morning bird for sure.
Right on, morning bird. Yeah. Okay. Favorite music. What do you rock out to if you're getting into a class? If you're about to get into a class session, or you just got back into the States, like what's some music that that's gonna get the party up to a 10?
Well, I actually like country music.
Nice.
And electronic too, like some house music. Yeah, I like both. Yeah, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
But I like country music when I'm like, just tripping and driving.
Sure.
And I do like some like house music and electronic.
Nice. Very cool. Number 3, quick hit, sports teams. I noticed in one of your bios that you played handball, I think.
Yes.
Just what's a sport that you watch if if a game is on, or a team you support?
Oh, well, I mean, considering the American standards, I'm a Vikings fan because I lived in North Dakota for 10 months, and was my first experience in America. So I became a Vikings fan.
Okay, you're an adopted Minnesota Vikings fan. I gotcha.
Yeah, I guess North Dakotans, it's the only team they can support.
Yeah,
they
right.
Don't really have any.
Yeah, that's all. That's the closest team they've got. I get it. I get it there.
Yeah, but I also really like to watch UFC. Like UFC fights.
Sure.
It's
Yeah. There was a fight Saturday night.
Yes.
I can't remember the names, but I saw the videos everywhere Sunday. That looked like a pretty intense one.
Yes. And the not for the main card, but for the second most important fight of the night, the Brazilian fighter, he won.
Nice.
It was a really, really great fight, though.
Nice. Good stuff. 4th quick hit. I always ask this of all my guests, and your drug of choice, meaning what is your daily go-to? Like, are you a coffee drinker in the morning? Do you like tea, wine, or beer? What is kind of a regular fix of yours?
Okay. Well, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I take advantage of caffeine.
Okay.
So in like a pre-workout or like caffeine pills.
Oh,
if they
sure.
kinda need some energy boost.
Some supplements.
I'm not a big fan of the taste of coffee.
Okay.
But I enjoy the caffeine
Want the boost.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like eventually I drink some vodka.
Oh, yeah, vodka. Yeah, right
Yeah.
on. That's some nights, especially summer, vodka is
Right.
great to have. And then final quick hit, favorite cuisine or food. What's a special meal if it's your birthday or there's a special occasion? What is a food or a restaurant that you really want to hit?
I mean, as a good Brazilian, I like a Brazilian barbecue. Yeah, I really like red meat. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, Brazilian steakhouses. Yeah,
steakhouse. Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Fogo de Chão. That is
Right.
one of my favorite places to go to for special stuff. I know what you mean there.
But for like considering American food, my favorite American food is biscuit and gravy.
Biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, biscuit and gravy, pecan pie, and banana pudding. It's very southern.
Hey.
Yeah, I used to live in Auburn.
Yeah,
Like, I
okay.
used to live in Alabama. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite food.
That makes sense, and that is all really good stuff too. I love banana cream and a pecan pie on Thanksgiving is wow. That's always a real treat. That's a good call. Well, listen, Dr. Jose Leme, again, of the Cannabis Biology and Cultivation Systems Lab at the SIU Cannabis Science Center. Thank you so much for jumping on the show. Really appreciate the good work you're doing at SIU.
Thank you so much. And before I finish, I mentioned about the cannabis certificate that we are planning to create.
Yeah.
But right now we do have the intensive control and environmental plant production certificate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing name, but it's this certificate. It's already available.
Got it, at SIU.
For SIU students and for non-students. But we are planning to create a certificate with more specific to cannabis and with like less credits, because then it can be more accessible for non-students and even SIU students that med students that want to take this 1 year cannabis certificate, or students from like SIU students from other departments that they want to have this quick certificate. My Instagram is doc.leme, Leme. And but I also have my website that you can find all the information there.
Great.
It's drleme.com.
drleme.com, and then for Instagram it was
It's doc.leme. Yeah.
doc.leme on Instagram. Gotcha.
doc.leme. Yeah.
Got
we
it.
do have a dot between doc and Leme.
Got it. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much, and appreciate you sharing the ways that anybody can get more information about these programs there. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future. This is exciting stuff.
Yes, we'll be doing, conducting very interesting research, and yeah, I will be happy to talk to you again. And I really appreciate what you're doing. We do have to kind of, bust or decrease or minimize this taboo against this plant, and the work you're doing, it's helping us, in this matter. And like what you're doing, what Jason from, Illinois Joint.
Yes, Illinois News Joint, absolutely.
News Joint, yeah. I really appreciate, the work you guys are doing, because, especially in academia, this taboo is still really strong.
Oh, yeah.
But the way to kind of, bust it or decrease it, it's just talking about it.
Right.
And just prove that, this plant is just a regular plant that deserves to be scientifically addressed as any other plant.
Totally, and thank you for saying that. I couldn't agree more. That is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I want to try and bust up that stigma and this sort of antiquated reefer madness that is still just baked into a lot of connotations in a conversation about cannabis. So I look forward to talking with you again in the future. I know you're doing exciting work, and the new research that comes out of SIU and all the great information that the students take away from there. Like I said, I think it's going to benefit all of us for years to come. So thanks a lot.
Yes, I appreciate it. And let's keep in touch, and let's spread the good word. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it. Want to thank my guest again, Dr. Jose Leme of Southern Illinois University. Wanted me to mention that they're having a festival, the Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms Festival at SIU Carbondale this weekend, Saturday the 24th. It's a family-friendly event, lots of fun stuff going on there, and you get to check out all the cool stuff that they have in terms of student life and what they're offering potential cannabis students down at SIU. The story I wanted to bring to your attention this week, listener, before I let you go, was something to do with a new organization from various states, and they've created a coalition, in their words, to support sales for small independent cannabis producers. And they are calling themselves the National Craft Cannabis Coalition, the NCCC. And they put out a press release, actually, just this week, the start of the week from when this episode's coming out, September 20th, and their press release starts with it's a coalition of 6 organizations representing 1,000 small and independent cannabis producers across the U.S. They announced the formation today, being Monday, and they are from, the states that these organizations are from are California, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. I won't go through the whole thing here, listener. I will share this press release on the show's social media pages, and you can kind of check it out. It's pretty short, just a few paragraphs here, but there are a few quotes that I thought were worth paying attention to. And the reason I want to bring it up is because I think that this sort of union, this coalition representing all these small businesses effectively, but also, trade associations, advocacy groups, along with different, state representatives as well. This is a very, very good thing. I was just very encouraged when I saw this formation of the group, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this goes. I'm going to try and have somebody from the group, the NCCC, on the show and just kind of get their words, and you can hear from them about, what their goals are and what, what they're hoping to accomplish and sort of what their immediate, needs and sort of things that they want to change right now. A lot of questions I'd like to ask them, including if anyone from Illinois has reached out to them to join up here. But that's all stuff that we'll find out in the future. But until then, as I said, I'll share that article and you can give it a look. And do check out the Hemp, Hops, and Shrooms Festival down at SIU with Dr. Jose Leme. And if not, there are always going to be more cannabis-friendly events in the future, and I will certainly share those with you along with other news stories and great guest interviews as long as I can keep them going here on the Cannabis Man podcast. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is an original production of myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music by Yusu Kim, a.k.a. Goodson. Other music by Pat Perez, and logo designed by Vorbroker Media. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe, and share whenever you can.